The customers still, from day one, if you don't have a happy customer, you don't have continued business. Your employees are key to your business because they are the face of your business. And when you're explaining things, when you're showing things to customers, you have to have a knowledgeable person. The biggest asset of your company is your customers and your employees, and you have to treat them right. If you take care of the people, they'll come back and they'll send their friends and their relatives. Word of mouth advertising is the best advertising.
Welcome to the Auto Boss Repair Show. I'm your host, Jim Parker. On this show, we talk to shop owners, we talk to operators, industry experts, so that we can see what's really going on out there in the real world in auto repair business. Today, I'm really excited because we have Rob Scharf with us. He is the owner of Mundelein Automotive. Robert has been in the business for nearly 4 decades, and he started in the mid-1980s. And what's really interesting is he started at a shop and for a couple years, and then he ended up buying that shop. And I had the pleasure of having a conversation with him a couple weeks ago. He's a wealth of great information, so I'm just really excited to have Rob on. Rob, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
Cool. Well, what are you seeing right now in the industry? You've been in the industry since the 1980s. What has changed the most, do you think?
Well, a lot of things have changed. When I started working on cars, we were repacking wheel bearings. Now we're replacing hub assemblies. We were doing a lot of rebuilding of things, and now it's just parts replacement. Although with the advent of the computer systems on vehicles, the technology keeps increasing, and you have to keep up with the knowledge to process and determine exactly what the root cause of the problem is.
Okay, cool. And what kind of things you have not really changed over the years? Kind of stayed the same.
Things that have changed the same are the need to know the knowledge that you need to possess. I mean, you need to know different knowledge, but you still need to be knowledgeable to repair a vehicle. The customers still, from day one, if you don't have a happy customer, you don't have continued business. And just hiring quality people and going along, getting people taken care of and fixing their problem and meeting the needs and their expectations.
Rob, that's just kind of like, basics of business. And I guess the basics of business never really changes, does it?
It doesn't. It doesn't. Unfortunately, you walk into some places and they just don't get that. But those are the places that don't stick around.
Yeah. Yeah, they get too caught up on the new things that are happening. They jump on that, and I think you just got to always go back to the basics, get those down really, really well. What do you see like? What does a well-run shop look like? What really makes the difference between a well-run shop versus a shop that's kind of struggling or just getting by?
Well, you've got a dedicated person up front to intake the customers, communicate with the customers, and do your service writing. You've got a clean and efficient shop, uniformed employees, um, and communication throughout. Where the service manager is probably your number one, most important, because he has to communicate not just with the customers, but he has to communicate with the technicians as to what needs to be done to the car, what the customer's complaints are, and how to get it done, and then he's got to sell the job and move forward from there.
Yeah, that makes sense. So how do you ensure that happens? Do you have really good systems down in the training, or did your person learn everything over time?
Well, it's over time. We've got our basic handbooks, our handbooks for uh, the service our employee handbook, and our service writer handbook, um, so that they have the opportunity to see what we expect out of them. We have procedures in our technician's handbook on how we want brake inspections done, how we want oil changes done, how we want used car inspections done, and we've also got how we want in the service writer's handbook how we want customers handled, how we want the intake process to go, how we want the process of selling the job to go, the pricing guidelines that we use. So we try and standardize that and continually make sure that they're following the procedures and their training.
You know, Rob, I kind of want to talk about this a little bit because I think that's one thing that a lot of shop owners miss is that they don't really have standard operating procedures or handbooks, and they kind of wing it every day. How long have you been using handbooks and creating these procedures?
I've had the handbooks now for about somewhere between 15 and 20 years.
No, for a long time.
Yeah.
You know, it's great because, like you said, it not only spells out, you know, what everybody's responsibilities are and what's expected from them, but, you know, if you do unfortunately lose somebody, you know, they leave your shop, it's easier to bring somebody on and get them up to speed on what you expect from them and, you know, for them how they handle different situations. I just think that's probably the biggest thing that shop owners miss is that they don't have any kind of handbooks or any kind of, you know, procedures that are written down. Do you see that a lot yourself in shop owners?
Yes. Yeah. There's a lot of people, a lot of business owners that I know that come in. They're surprised that we do have the handbooks and the detailed way that we want things done. However, if you walk into a McDonald's, they tell you how to put the hamburger on the grill this way every time. Why shouldn't that be that way in the auto repair business? You're doing an oil change. This is what you check. This is what you do on every oil change. You check the tires. You check the filters. You check the fluid levels. And if you're doing a brake inspection, you take all four wheels off. You don't just look through the wheels and stick your little gauge in there. You take all four wheels off so you can see all 8 brake pads and see that you know the inner pad is wore out or the outer pad is wore out or that the brakes are good on 2 wheels, but it needs brakes on the other 2 wheels. So, and it's important.
Do you use checklists at your shop? Like
Yes,
when they're doing, yeah.
Yes,
So
we
like
do.
as they're doing each car, they're checking off, making sure they did each thing.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, I think I think that in and itself is important, Rob, because you know you might be a tech or your tech might be there for years, and you know that they do the same things over and over and over again, or constantly, consistently. But then you know it's just easy to forget that one thing. Oh, I forgot to do that on that one car. Whereas no matter what, you're following that checklist, then you never miss that type of a thing. Did you ever? I'm now curious. One of my favorite business books I've ever read was The E Myth. Did you ever read that?
No, I did not.
That's an incredible book. I think you would love it, Rob. It's kind of like basically what how you think and how you have things in your shop. It kind of talks about you know systemizing everything and how important it is, and making yourself instead of you being the business or working in the business. You're supposed to set your business up so you're working on the business and you're creating those systems and those procedures. And it talks about franchises and, you know, why franchises are so successful because they do have everything systemized so well. And no matter where you go out in the world, you know, basically everything's kind of run the kind of the same way. So it's kind of cool. I think you would really enjoy that. So you've built something that's lasted. I mean, you've had your business for a very long time. What do you feel like you got right early on in the business? Anything you can think of?
Early
I
on
mean,
was basically customer service. Customer service is very, very important. When I was a young man growing up, my dad drove a shuttle bus at O'Hare Airport, and the employee shuttle bus. But one of the things he did was at nighttime, he wouldn't stop just at the stop and let the stewardesses out. He would pull up to to the row where their car is, drop them out, make sure he got in their car safely, and go. This wasn't something that he was supposed to do. This is something he did just for the safety of the stewardesses and just basically customer service. If somebody was standing, if it was raining out and somebody wasn't quite at the bus stop, he'd pull up to go to stop and pick them up, so they're not just wandering in the rain to get to the bus stop.
Yeah,
It's
that's great. That's how you build referrals and get people repeat business and people talking about you. You have any examples of how you incorporate really good customer service into your shop?
well, if for example, we do an oil change and we see that the car needs tires.
Hmm.
We'll recommend tires. If the customer doesn't buy the tires, that's fine. There's tire shops all over. You're welcome to go wherever you want. We're not holding you hostage. But we explain to them, this is why you need the tires. You get steel cords out of here. Whether you buy them from us today or you buy them down the street today, go buy them today because it's for your safety and for your good. And if you're not pushing stuff just to push stuff, but you're explaining why something needs to be sold and why they need to buy to spend this money on their vehicle, they are more inclined to trust you and want you to take care of the job.
Rod, I got to tell you, I think you're hitting it right on the head because let's be honest. I mean, in the auto repair industry, there's a lot of distrust out there between the consumers and a lot of consumers don't trust auto repair shops. And I know the shop that I've been going to for years is because I have that trust factor in there. And anytime I have to go to a shop that I'm not familiar with, it's a little bit easier now because you can go on Google and you can read Google reviews and things. But I think building that trust factor with customers is I mean, it's important in every industry, but I think in the auto repair industry, it's probably, one of the most. It's very, very important.
Well, we're like your doctor. I mean, we're the doctor of your vehicle.
Mm,
You establish a relationship with your doctor. You establish a relationship with your dentist, and our customers is trying to establish a relationship with their mechanic.
yep, excellent. Anything else about customer service you could tell the viewers or the listeners?
We'll pick up customers and drop off customers. They need a ride. We're try and help them as far as if they can't. If we've got early morning drop off, we've got late night pickup. Whatever we can do to make it convenient for the customer. During the pandemic, when everything was closed down, we were actually going to people's houses and picking their cars up and bringing them in and taking care of them,
Wow.
which because at that point in time we had plenty of time. Now we're back to our normal business, people coming in constantly, so we don't have time to do that anymore. But that kept us going through the pandemic. It's important. Somebody comes in and they got a tail light out, you throw a bulb in it and say, "Have a nice day." We try
Hmm.
and do at least one nice thing every day for somebody just to make their day.
What do you mean?
And
You don't charge them for that light bulb?
yeah, you don't
You just
charge them for a
throw it in
light
there?
bulb. They'll come back. They'll come back and say, "You know what? You put a bulb in here. Can you take a look at my brakes? They're making noise, or I think I need tires or whatever." So, if you do the little things, it comes back to you. Everything is not about the last nickel you can get. It's about
Right.
what can you do to help people.
Yep. And I know from our conversation before, I realize how, focused you are on customer service. And I think that's great. I mean, again, that's how you get repeat referrals and good reviews on your business and just builds it. That's fantastic. And you're right. You give up, some change for a light bulb. I mean, like they're going to come back for the big ticket items where you're really going to make good profit. And it's just a nice thing to do as well. That's fantastic. Another thing, we kind of touched on it already, but I'd like to go into it a little bit more. Another thing that you seem to really focus on is the training within your shop. Why is that so important to you?
Well, you've got to have knowledgeable technicians. It's important to have people that know what they're doing. So when the car comes in, it gets fixed. It's fixed right. They're gone. They come back for something different. They don't come back for the same thing. You can give something away, but if the customer has to come back, you're a clown. If
Hmm.
you can charge people anything you want, and if it's fixed right, they're happy, go on set. So it's important to make sure that the vehicle is fixed right. So we try and make sure we use a quality part along with a trained technician.
That's great. I'll tell you, at my company, obviously we sell auto repair related businesses. And to me, education for our team is extremely important as well. Like, we have a couple industry conferences a year, and most companies they encourage their employees to go, but the employees have to pay for it themselves because they're agents, they're 1099 subcontractors at the end of the day. And I'm a big believer. Like, I'll pay for their conference fee, their airfare, their hotel rooms, all their expenses while they're there. And it is, it adds up to be a lot of money, but like at the end of the day, you're ensuring that they're going, you're showing them how important their education is to you and to the company as a whole. And at the end of the day, I don't care what business you're in. You're fixing cars or you're selling businesses. The more educated everybody is, the more knowledgeable everybody is, the better you're going to be. I mean, that's what people are paying for at the end of the day, is your knowledge, right? And
Exactly.
so and
Exactly.
you do something that's kind of unusual in your shop. You pay by hour, right?
Yes. Yes. When I started on a commission-based program. However, I hired one guy, and every car needed this one item. It was every car that came in, and I'm like, because that was something he could do quick. It was good at, and that, and I got to be skeptical with that. If you pay everybody by the hour, nobody's fighting over, well, he got this job and I'm get stuck on this job. You're getting paid by the hour. If you have a problem getting it done, you're not rushing and putting it out the door. Yeah, we'll deal with it when it comes back. You're making sure it's done right the first time because you're still getting paid. You don't have to worry. If it's a quiet time, you can pick a broom up and sweep up your area and clean your area because you're still getting paid. It's not like, well, I don't get paid to sweep floors. I get paid to fix cars. So, and like Mike is working on something and Anthony needs help with it, Mike will stop what he's doing and go help Anthony because he's not worried about getting this done in this amount of time so he can get paid. So
Yeah.
it creates teamwork and camaraderie.
Instead of competition and I hate to say it, but greed. You
Correct.
know, yeah, that's good. Um, you said that a shop is only good as its employees and its parts. Can you expand on that? That was from a conversation that you and I had a few weeks
Yes.
ago.
You, your employees are key to your business because they are the face of your business. Uh, I've been sloughing off and taking some extra vacation time and things like that, but uh, because I'm at that point now, I've got a full time service manager and a part time service writer, so I can get out of there a little bit more. We But they're the face of your business, and when you're explaining things, when you're showing things to customers, you have to have a knowledgeable person. When you are fixing the car, you have to have a knowledgeable person. You have to have people that show up every day for work, ready for work. They're not hungover. They're not calling in sick because of this, that, or the other thing. I find that married men are generally good because they want to get out of the house. Uh, but and they come to work every day. Still, you want people that are self motivated because if you're paying by the hour, you need self motivated individuals, definitely. Otherwise, they'll just sit there and milk the clock. And you want workers. You don't want employees. You want workers, which is why you put a help wanted sign out and not a employee wanted sign out.
Right. And those are the two things too, is the motivation, that's the stuff that you can't train. If they have those basic things, they got a good work ethic and they're motivated, then you can train them from there to be as good as they can possibly be. But without those things, I mean, that's basically what when you're hiring somebody, you kind of look for, and you can do everything from there. How do you decide like what you're going to focus your team on for as far as training? How do you decide what kind of training your team should focus on?
Well, the parts places, they're always offering training. For example, we've got a flyer hanging on the wall. There's some advanced air conditioning training coming up April 9th, I believe, which the guys let me know if they want to sign up for. I pay for it, and send them to class and give them a little, pay them overtime to go to the class. We also got partnered with a company that does online training. They do webinars, and they've got the guys don't necessarily want to take a webinar at 7 o'clock at night, but we started spending take a different guy a week and spend an hour in the morning. Just here, you've got this in the catalog. Pick a class, go through it, and watch it for an hour. And if you put them on that first thing in the morning, that's when they're most awake and alert. So it sinks
Yep.
in a little bit better. We used to go to live training before the pandemic, but then the company stopped doing their live training because of the pandemic. So now they've gone to webinars. So, which I'm not a big webinar guy, but
Yeah, I've had my kind of share of those during the COVID thing. So you're doing the employees are getting training on the clock then basically. They're getting paid
definitely,
to be
definitely,
trained.
it's I'm benefiting from their knowledge, so I should pay them to get it. That's the way I look at it.
Abs- Absolutely. Me and you are on the exact same page with that. Do you see a noticeable difference between shops that concentrate on training and those that don't?
I don't really see that many other shops because I'm more
Mhm.
focused on mine. But I would say that from what I see that comes in from other shops and technicians saying, well, it needs this, it needs that, and it doesn't need that stuff. That might be from either lack of training or just the need to sell stuff to eat.
Yeah.
The commission-based program.
It's strange as we're talking, Rob. I'm like, this stuff is everything we're talking about is like basic business stuff, but so many shops just ignore it. They hire their techs and they come on and I'm sure some of their techs might be getting some outside training here and there, and they say that they concentrate on customer service or but like I mean, you're really running a really good business. I mean, you've got the systems in place, you've got handbooks in place. You really encourage your employees to provide good customer service out there. You're making sure your employees are constantly being trained and kept up to date on what's going on with the new technology coming out and just getting better all the way around, even with things that aren't new technology. I mean, this is kind of what is separating you, I think, from your competitors, and I think it's fantastic. Kudos to what you're doing. You're running a business the way you should be running it.
Yeah, on any particular day, we can be rebuilding a carburetor on one car and replacing an EV battery on a Prius. It's just it's through the whole range of the automobile business.
Well, what do you think about cross training? Do you cross train your employees?
I've got one guy that I like to bring into the office once in a while because if for some reason something happens to whereas my service manager has to leave for whatever reason or is sick, if my service writer is off work and something happens and I have to go somewhere or do something, I need somebody to come up front. So I've got a gentleman that will come up front and he can write invoices and answer phones and actually I've got a couple guys that are happy and that are good answering phones. Uh, Working Rob and Mike both answer phones well and can talk to customers. So
And you're bringing them in once a week to do that?
I working Rob. I generally don't. He fills in as needed.
Okay.
Mike, I try and bring in at least a couple times a month just to sit there for an hour or so, hour or two, and work the front just to help it out.
I think that that's important when you're talking about cross training because I'm a big believer in cross training too. Like for all the reasons that you said. But the one thing is you can't just take an employee, train them really quick on cross train them on something, and then in case you need them in an emergency, and then they don't do it for a year. because they're going to forget everything. You're doing it right. Like you're bringing him in a couple times a month for an hour or so here and there, so that he's constantly getting that practice, and he's probably getting better at it. That's the key to cross training. Kudos to you.
Yeah, that's
What about
important.
that? What about diagnostics? When it comes to the diagnostics, do you I know a lot of shops, there might be, the owner's really, really, really good at diagnostics. They do the most complex diagnostics. And then there's another person in the shop that will do, the harder diagnostics, but maybe not as hard of what the owner does. And then, the other techs may not really be able to do very complex diagnostics. Like, are you always encouraging your employees to getting better at that diagnostic
Oh,
situation?
definitely, definitely. And a couple of my guys have surpassed me in their diagnostic ability with the newer vehicles. So, because I'm probably not up as much as they are, and doing it every day on an everyday basis.
Yep.
So
Yeah, I'm
they're
going to tell you someday. And listen, I just want to say, Rob he has no interest in selling his shop. We just reach out to shop owners. We reach out to successful shop owners around the country to interview them, because the whole purpose of the show is to get the knowledge from people like Rob and pass it on to other people. But Rob, that's one of the things that are struggled with when I talk to business owners that are looking to sell their shops, and the owner is the one that's doing all the complex diagnostics or the harder diagnostics. And when that shop is bought by a buyer, that turns a buyer off, because when a buyer is looking at it, they're looking at it from a risk factor. And they're like, okay, the person is doing the majority of the more complex diagnostics is out the door. It's harder to replace that person, especially if it's a bigger company coming in and buying the business. They like somebody, they like it when they come in, the techs already are doing the diagnostics, and the owner's doing very little or no diagnostics. So again, kudos to what you're doing, Rob. You're doing everything right. You know that, though. You don't need me to tell you that.
I'm trying to run it as an absentee owner as best I
Well,
can.
that makes it even more valuable. See, becoming an absentee owner. How close are you to that right now, Rob?
Uh, I'm I'll be 68 this year. I'm thinking about rolling till around 70, and then at that point, possibly I'll be selling the shop to my technician Mike, and
Oh,
let him
great.
move forward with it. I or I may, depending upon circumstances, we may hang on to it a little bit and just run it from my home in Florida. So
How many hours a week are you working on average right now, do you think?
I still get there at 7 in the morning and generally leave somewhere 5:30, 6 o'clock.
Okay.
So Monday
Okay.
through
So you're not
Friday.
there yet, but that's your goal, is to
No.
kind of get to a point where you're more absentee, or at least cutting back on your
Yeah.
hours a lot, huh?
At least now, I just, like I said, I just spent 2 weeks in Florida. We've got a home there, and between mid November, mid December, I was gone for a month down there. I'm still working every day, doing the paperwork, paying the bills, and that stuff, payroll. But I'm doing it from down there. The with trying to get away this year, I'll be taking a lot more vacations and time off. The wife is retiring at the end of June,
Congratulations. So
so
exciting for her.
she's been with the same company for 45 years. So yeah, yeah, she's risen to AVP of the company. She's
Nice,
uh,
nice.
she's ready to pull the plug,
Oh
and
my God, that company owes her a lot. 45 years. That's amazing. You don't hear that very much anymore. I think
no,
that
but
me
but
and your parents' generation was more common for that type of a
exactly,
situation.
exactly. You don't see that anymore in business, but the loyalty from the businesses isn't there anymore either. I mean, you don't see the loyalty in companies that say, "Hey, thank you for this, and have a nice day." There's no gold watch going out the door.
Yeah. Well,
So
with your wife, I mean, obviously she worked there for 45 years. It sounds like whatever company she works for is a pretty good company in itself to retain, an employee like that for 45 years. And, they must have treated her really well over the years. That's awesome for her and awesome for them.
So,
Hey, how do you develop your philosophy on pricing over the years?
well, philosophy on pricing is that obviously I've got set parameters on, what a markup is on a tire, what a markup is on brake parts. If I'm buying something from the dealer, what a markup I have to have out of that. Because we buy parts from all kinds of different places. We buy a lot of genuine Chrysler parts, a lot of genuine Toyota parts, a lot of genuine Honda parts. So there's set markups that you have to have. There's As far as that goes, you have to look at what does it take at the end of the day to where you make enough money to where you're there the next time the customer's there, but you're not gouging the customer. And
Hmm.
what does your payroll cost? How much money, how much revenue do you have to take in every week in labor to cover that payroll? So your labor pricing gets figured. When I first started in this business, I was buying I was buying books from Mitchell and Motor. Now I've got subscriptions to All Data, subscriptions to Identifix. Instead of writing everything by hand, we use a service management program, RO Writer. I've got the QuickBooks to for payroll and that. So you've got all these subscriptions based stuff, which gets into your cost of your payroll. And your vacations are part of your cost of payroll. Your health insurance is part of your cost of payroll. Your workman's comp is all part of your cost of payroll. So in order to determine what your labor rate needs to be, you have to check and see what the people in the area are charging, so you're not overcharging or undercharging, and what is your realistic costs, what is your expectations you have to meet every week in order to keep everybody paid and the door open.
Yeah, yeah. Now, what is like some shops they compete on price alone. What I'm taking it that you guys do not compete on price alone. How do you guys compete in the marketplace, in your marketplace? What separates you? Like, what is your, if I came and I said, oh, why should I take my car to your shop?
I
What would
tell
your response
people
be?
we're not the cheapest place around, but I don't think we're the highest price place around. What we try and give you is service and quality. We try and make sure that if we tell you your car is going to be ready on this day, that we're going to have it done by the end of the day. We try and make sure it's done by the end of the day. If we tell you that we're going to put this part on, we're not buying the cheapest part. We're buying a part that we know is going to last and stay on there, so we don't have to see it again. So that the next time we see you, we see you for something else. Advertising wise, I don't do mass mailers to just everybody. My the tire company I use has a program where they've got, they'll send out mass mailers and stuff. I don't use that because right now we're putting our spring coupon, but our spring coupon I send out to existing customers. I give
Hmm.
coupons and offers to customers that we have already come in and seen us and have spent money with us. I send them coupons and offers to save them money. You turn on the TV and the internet company's got a great price, new subscribers only. The cell phone company's got great price, new customers only. I want to take care of the people who are taking care of me. The new
Exactly. I never
customers.
understood that. I'm sorry to cut you off, Rob, but you're exactly right. I never understood that because it's like here I am, a loyal customer of this company for so long, and you're going to give some discount to some guy that's or lady that's coming in off the street. What about me? I totally get. I've always thought the same exact thing.
Yeah, I recently switched from AT&T to Comcast. Now I've been with AT&T since it was Illinois Bell for for 40 some years, and their prices just kept going up and up and up. And Comcast came in and said, "Look, we can do this for half." So I went from a $650 a month phone bill to a $300 a month phone bill.
Wow.
And
Wow.
AT&T, I talk to them every time they come up. Well, we can, if you sign this, we can do this, we can do that. No, take care of me. I'm your customer. I've been your customer, but they didn't want to.
Exactly. Do you remember? This has nothing. It just made me think about this. I haven't thought about this in years. Do you remember in the 1990s when all the cell phone companies were competing with each other, and they would call you up, and I don't know if it was cell phone or landline, when they'd call you up and say, if you switch over to us, we'll give you $100.
Yeah,
And do you remember that? And I remember like in a 1 year period of time, I was a young guy at that point, and like 1 year period of time, I switched like four times. I kept, because I kept getting paid $100 every time I switched. And that was just a dumb marketing, like they were they were all doing it. Do you remember that? That was
yeah.
crazy.
I don't change vendors very often. If I've got a vendor that I like and I trust them not to gouge me. Obviously, I know they have to make money. My oil
Hmm.
supplier just sent me a notice that come mid-April, ExxonMobil is raising their prices 12%. So that means that they're gonna have to raise their prices. I understand that and I get that. I'm not out looking for a cheaper source of oil because I know I'm putting a quality oil in a vehicle.
Hmm.
If I have to charge my customer an extra nickel a quart, that happens. Fortunately, we haven't had to raise our oil change prices in some time. We during the pandemic and the early 2020s when oil prices kept going up and up and up, we were getting different prices on oil just about every time we got a delivery, and as a result, our prices would go up and go up. But fortunately, we've stabilized and haven't
Right.
had that issue.
Right. So you brought up something we never talked about this, Rob. But it's interesting you brought up the suppliers. I think that some people have this mentality in business that I want to hire my employees at the lowest I can possibly hire them at. I want to charge my customers as much as I possibly can and nickel and dime them, get everything I can from it, and I'm going to turn around to my suppliers and vendors and I'm going to beat them up on price. And to me, and it sounds like for you, I'm going to say, and I want to hear what your response is. To me, it's, you take care of everybody. You take care of your employees, you take care of your customers, and you take care of your suppliers. And for me, my suppliers are like my lenders and attorneys and people like that I recommend. And, some people might be like, well, your suppliers, you want to beat them up. To me, it's like, no, I want to take care of my suppliers. I want to make sure that they're successful, they're doing well. Because then when I really need them, they'll be there for me, and they're gonna count on me. I always say to the people that I use, whether it's a marketing company, whatever it is, I want to be your favorite client. I want to be your favorite customer because I just think that that's just good business. I mean, what's your philosophy on suppliers and vendors?
Yeah, they I they take care of me. I try and use them. Uniform companies, for example. We've been with the same uniform company for years and years and years. Everybody comes in and, oh, we can change this, we can save you money, we can do this. It's not always about saving money. I know that every Monday I'm going to see my guy walk in the door. He's going to change the rugs. He's going to bring his towels. He's going to bring his roll towels and shop towels and bring his clean uniforms and pick up. I don't have to worry about him. I have no issues there. My credit card vendors, you could sit on the phone, and I'm sure every shop owner out there gets 20 phone calls a day if somebody's going to save them money on their credit cards. But every month I see what I'm paying in my credit card percentage, and as long as I'm staying consistent, I'm happy. I know what I'm going to pay. I'm not paying. I'm not. I mean, it's generally in the 2% neighborhood. I'm not paying, uh, 2.5, 3, 4% on credit cards,
Right.
and that includes all the fees and stuff like that because they say, oh, well, he's got this fee, that fee. We could save you this, save you that. Another thing I with vendors, for example, the local parts store that we use. I've got one major parts store that I use pretty much. I'll spend between $3,000 and $5,000 a week with them. They a lot of stuff we order online, and they've got a box that says lost sale, and if they don't have it, I'll put in the lost sale and a reason why I lost sale. For example, what's trending in the industry now is brake kits, where they say pads and rotors. Well,
Hmm.
this the parts store, so you look up brake kit, and for a 2019 Honda, they didn't have a brake kit for this 2019 Honda. But if you looked it up separately, looked up the pads and the rotors, they had the parts on the shelf. So I put in a lost sale on the brake kit because it says you don't have it, but your parts are on the shelf. How's if my guy is trained to look up brake kits, how's he going to buy your part?
Yeah.
Try and give them feedback. As far as pricing goes from them, they're all pretty close. If I see something that's outrageously different, for example, it's $44 at this part store, and the same part number, the same brand, the same everything is $68 at the other part store, I'll put in a lost sale for that, so they know that, hey, you kind of need to look at your pricing and make sure that you're in the proper levels to keep going, because it is our job also to try and get the customer out. It is budgetary possible for them, because they're,
Absolutely. Yeah.
you know, because
But
if
that's
I'm
good
paying,
too, because like you know what a lot of people would do. I'm so sorry, Rob. I cut you off, but you know what a lot of people do is like in a situation like that. Oh, this one's a lot cheaper. I'm just going to call this one, or they sit there and they beat up the two against each other. I mean, I like that you're going to your main supplier and you're saying, hey, I can get it cheaper over here. What can you do for me instead of just abandoning them?
yeah. Yeah, and a lot of times if I'll see something that's $44 here and $68 here, I'll call them up and I'll say, hey, this thing's $44 over at this store, and they got it on the shelf. What can you do for me? Can you get it down to 50? Can you get it to 48? And a lot of times it's in there. They just their markup matrix is just screwed the pooch on it, so
Yeah.
they're able to do it, and they keep the sale and keep us going.
You had mentioned you were talking about you feel like it's you. I loved how you said that too. I wish I could remember the exact words, but basically you said that I love it. You basically said that you feel like it's your responsibility to make sure the customer gets out the door at a reasonable price, a fair price. How do you balance the profitability with the doing the right thing with the owner?
Well, obviously you have to make enough money so you're there the next time they need you.
Hmm.
But you don't gouge, and if you can once again find the same part that it's $109 at this part store and $198 at this part store. Now take your parts markup matrix and look at the difference of the price that it goes to the customer, and it's the same exact part, the same brand, same part number. Obviously you've got to you go you go with the with the other with the one that's
Yeah.
lesser expensive. So you're they're being taken care of. You got a responsibility to the customer to you're a steward over their money. They don't know what it costs. Maybe they do, maybe they don't, but it's up to you to make sure that it's reasonable.
Yep, yep. Perfect. And, you were talking earlier about, your oil company raising the prices right now. I mean, when we're recording this, we've got a war going on over in Iran. So, the oil prices are going through the roof, and gas prices and everything. I mean, it's gonna affect everything, I think. But I think this is an important thing to talk about is that over the years, I've seen a lot of small business owners, they're so hesitant on increasing their prices. And I love to hear what you would say to them. I mean, to me, like, because you were talking about your oil company and hey, they're going to have to increase the prices by 12%. And you're okay with that because you realize what's going on. So, like, what would you say to the owners out there that are hesitant on raising their prices when they really should be raising their prices?
You have to look at the bottom line. How much are you taking in? How much are you paying out? What do you have left? If you're not taking out too much and just paying people willy nilly and have and you're watching your paperwork and your books and you're not struggling because your pricing isn't high enough, then you have to raise your prices. You have to be fair to yourself along with your customers. Once again, you need to make enough money so you're there the next time they need something, but you don't need to gouge, and you don't need to make $1 million this year just because that's what you want to make. So
Yeah, but it's the cost of doing business. Like I think a lot of shop owners or business owners just look at it and they're like, "Oh, I'm afraid my customers are gonna not return if I raise my prices," and they get so worried. And sometimes I talk to business owners that haven't raised prices in years, and my gosh, I mean, we're in 2026 right now. I mean, the inflation has, kind of gone through the roof for several years since COVID. And it's unbelievable. The profit margins are just shrinking. You can't continue to swallow that. And most customers understand out there that you need to raise prices. They know what's going on there. Everywhere they go to the grocery store, it's more expensive. They go to fill up their tank, it's more expensive. Everything gets more expensive, and you just got to keep up with inflation and the cost of doing
exactly.
business.
Yeah, it's the cost of doing business, and you have to pay. Unfortunately, you have to pass that to the consumer, which and the consumer, if we have an educated clientele, they understand that, yeah, it costs money to run a business. So they,
Yeah,
the,
eventually, you're going to strangle yourself, and God, companies that compete on price alone, that's just crazy. I mean, what do you think about that? Shops that compete on price, that's their main thing.
well, if they're competing on price, I'm guessing that they're not paying their employees a lot. I'm guessing that they're using a lesser quality part. I don't see them as trying to trying to put out a quality product out there. They're just trying to get you price, price, price. We'll get you in, we'll get you out. It'll be cheap. I can sell cheap tires, or I can sell a quality tire.
Right.
You know, I can sell the top end tires, or I can sell a quality tire at a reasonable price. I sell a lot of Cooper tires, for example. It's a quality tire. It's not your Michelin, but it's. We had a quote yesterday for my neighbors. It was 1,700 for the Michelins. It was 1,200 for the Coopers. So yeah, I said, go with the Coopers. You'll be happy. And if it's something I'll put on my car, I'll sell my customer, because I don't, I don't want to put something on somebody's car I wouldn't put on my own. So I want to make sure it's a quality part, and it's done right. If I'm doing my brakes, I'm putting on pads and rotors. I'm not cutting corners just to, okay, we can throw a set of pads on, just to make it stop. I'm making sure that it stops properly and in the stopping distance that it should. So
Good, good. Well, Robert, is there anything else that you would want to leave the viewer or listener with that you don't think we covered today that's really important to you as an owner?
the biggest asset of your company is your customers and your employees, and you have to treat them right. You have to pay your customer, or you have to pay your employees, uh, uh, provide insurance, provide benefits for them. For example, we're not a big enough company for a 401. We've got a simple IRA program that we do matching dollars for the full-time employees. We get health insurance we pay for the employees. They have to purchase their family plans, but you have to take care of your employee and make your employee want to work in a work friendly environment. Your customers, you have to treat with respect. You have to be good to. You have to be responsive to their needs, and what they want and what they need, and so that they come back, and that they send their friends and their relatives. And we've got second and third generation customers that are coming in since I've been there. Because, well, yeah, my dad came here, my grandpa came here. It's we get a lot of that, because if you take care of the people, they'll come back and they'll send their friends and their relatives. And
Right.
word
Right.
of mouth advertising is the best advertising.
It seems like at the end of the day, you must be very proud of yourself. Because I know, like for me, I feel the same way. But you must be very proud of yourself. You finish a day or you finish the week, and you're like, "Yep, I take care of my employees. I take care of them, and I'm taking care of my customers." And there's a lot of pride in that. I think as a business owner.
Yeah. It's not just about the bottom line. It's about continued growth. For example, everybody's saying that I hear from parts stores and stuff. Everybody's saying, it's quiet out there. It's quiet out there. But this month, our car count is ahead of last March's car count, which was
Wow,
ahead of the
nice.
car count from the March before. And if you just, I keep track, we do our daily paperwork, and I keep track monthly of where sales are, where our car count is, and some years the job average is higher than others, because not every year does somebody need four tires and four brakes, but they still come back because they still need their oil change. They still, their window stops going up and down, so they still need to come back and see you. So as long as you see that, and then their neighbor says, "Hey, I'm having problems with my car." Well, take it over to this guy over here, uh, and and then you see the continued growth. So
I'm gonna tell you, Rob, congratulations and kudos to you because, I saw a lot of repair businesses across the country. And what I've been seeing we're early in 2026 when we're recording this, so things might change, by the time this gets released or by the time somebody listens to it. But what I'm seeing right now, preliminary, it seems like many shops, their numbers are down in 2026. Their car count is down and your car count is up, and it sounds like you're up all the way around. Kudos to you, Rob. That says something.
well, that says it for my team. They do a wonderful job.
And that is a true good businessman, a good person. He's not accepting it himself. He's passing on and saying, It's because of my team." I love it. I love it, Rob. Rob, I really appreciate coming on and sharing your experience. There is so much that a shop owner can learn from you. Is there a website? What's your website, Rob?
Our website is www.mundeleinauto.com. So
Perfect. Rob, thanks again for joining us. I really appreciate you taking the time out today.
thank you very much. I appreciate you having me. You have a great
And
day.
you too. And for everybody that's listening out there, if you're finding this information valuable or these podcasts valuable, please make sure you subscribe. And I would love it if you shared it with another shop owner. That'd be fantastic. And again, thank you so much for listening today. And until next time, take care. All right. That was good. Let's stop the recording.